Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, March 4th. I think it's probably appropriate to say that at the end of Friday's stream I was exhausted mentally, so it kind of went totally over my head. The fact that Dead or Alive 6 has a $100 extra Season 1 pass. Like, I was looking at it more thinking, oh, this is your standard rip-off jobs. Still a rip-off, where you'd pay $100, you'd get the base game, and you'd get Season 1 pass. And maybe it's a Season 1 pass, but there would only be a Season 2 a year later. It's become more clear to me now that I've slept and thought about it that no, it's actually, I'm still not 100% sure if you buy the deluxe version of the game, you don't get the Season 1 pass. But if you buy the base game and the Season 1 pass, you're paying $170. The Season 1 pass includes 2 characters and about 50 costumes. That is incredibly expensive. That makes a lot more sense on that. Also, I kind of didn't say anything about Zinka Zero, or I believe is the name of that Japanese visual novel dungeon crawler game, being censored. I'm gonna hold off until we see that. I kind of just left it. It says the child bedroom scenes are being censored. I don't know what that means, frankly. It could mean that I know the characters are clones that age throughout the course of like a week, so there might be some scenes where they're young 10-year-olds in pajamas in a bedroom, and it might be completely like innocent, or it might be straight up just like moe underage hentai in the Japanese version, but I doubt it because they don't do that in games. They just don't in Japanese games because they'd get in trouble. So I'm waiting for kind of like a shot-for-shot comparison there. What else? I brought the chat back. It may not exactly be right. It's going to show the warning, I think, forever, but I think whatever anyone else types is going to pop up and disappear, and that's a mistake. It's pretty much a non-controversy, frankly. The whole, oh, people are putting comments on channels, and that is causing Adpocalypse 2.0. That kind of came and went, and we could rehash my thoughts that this was intentionally set up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they found the person who made the video on it was actually working for some advertising agency to try to cause an Adpocalypse 2.0 so that people like Disney could just renegotiate. I guess we need to play as a hunter today, so let's get into a game. It seems like YouTube is, at the moment, giving me the impression that they're just going to mute comments on videos. At first, they were talking about, like, they were going to take down channels or give community guideline strikes for what other people commented. I think they've just kind of silently backed off on that, because that would be incredibly unfair, and then that would just cause a rise of more people complaining about YouTube for no good reason. So, and frankly, the chat that happens on my YouTube channel is severely infrequent and extremely rarely inappropriate. Like, let's face it, the more inappropriate things that get said are said by me or by the game developers that I'm showing off, so I think I can kind of trust my audience for what little there is that actually chats. I did a little bit of recording over the weekend, but not a lot. mostly I did Star Wars Rebel Assaults, which is, I think it's called Rebel Assault 1 and 2, which are some old DOS. They're claimed to be on-rail shooters games. I would not really call them on-rail shooters games. I would call them closer to a slightly on-rails light gun game, because you're not 100% on rails. Like, it is not House of the Dead where you just get to maybe choose if you're going left or right. It's closer to a case of you're flying a spaceship, and if you lean the mouse to the left, you turn a little bit to the left, or you lean to the right, you turn to the right. Unfortunately, it is using the old style joystick setups where there's just kind of no dead zone in an Xbox One controller, or even I'd assume there's probably no dead zone in most controllers until you get to really, really expensive high tier controllers. So and I don't think it's the controller's fault as much as it's the programming. So you'll have to configure and center the controller for each of these DOS games, and a lot of times they don't save any settings, so you'd have to play the entire game in one run, which would be very doable for the Rebel Assault games. But the cursor will just start slowly jumping towards the top left for me, and so there's no way to really use a controller because it's moving all over the place, and it's far too sensitive. So you try to move the ship and it just crashes into this wall, and then it crashes into that wall, so it's basically unplayable. And so then I moved over to X-Wing, and the X-Wing Special Edition is a collection of like 3 games. In that there is the X-Wing Classic that you can launch, or the X-Wing CD-ROM collection, which has slightly better graphics, it seemed like, and more audio. Of course, any CD-ROM from floppy disk version would. And then on top of that, it seems it has more levels on the CD-ROM version, but otherwise it's still the same control problems where I just can't control the ship, and the joystick setup is definitely not equipping you to play with just a joystick. You're still going to have a keyboard in front of you to press buttons to adjust like the settings in X-Wing. And then I tried to play X-Wing Special Edition, and it crashed just as soon as I tried to go into a level, and at that point I was just like, I do not care. Like, I honestly could not care less about this game to even try to do that. So yeah, I chose to just end the recording. And quite frankly, there's a lot of just really bad recordings I'm doing as I'm going through the 3 different versions of X-Wing. Next, I'm going to go into the 3 different versions of TIE Fighter, which hopefully is slightly better, but man, these are old Star Wars games, and I'm just kind of burning through all the Star Wars games for May the 4th be with you, and then I want to be done with Star Wars. That gives me back May as a month. What am I going to do with it? Kind of nothing. Like, let's be honest, my channel's not really trying to adopt more themes. I've always wanted to do like a second month focused on zombies, and I feel like maybe if I can get around to January or February of next year to have a secondary Halloween month, or particularly just zombie game month, because there's plenty of games out there that have zombies in them that aren't really that horrific or scary. But that's kind of the only theme month that I'm trying to add, and I'm still very iffy if I want to cover games that I got for free in November. Honestly, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to move games that I got for free in January. That I can see that being helpful. Hey, before we do this, I don't think it matters, but let's do that. Yeah, I have no more mana. Why did I attack the face? I don't know what I'm doing here. Hearthstone related, I listened to Disguised Toast cover the new expansion. He gave me a little bit more details than what I had picked up just from my own lack of research. It seems like the details are pretty certain that it is going to cost like 2,500 dust. So, because of that, I feel like we're going to be in a situation where when the next expansion comes out, I am not going to spend all of my gold on any of the expansions. So we're still gonna pretty much only open up maybe 25 packs, and because of the way they've changed the release here. So yeah, and sadly that's kind of the suggestion you have to give to everybody else, is to say, well, because of the way this is done, you kind of need to let's see. You kind of need to hold back in the next expansion and not waste all your money on packs. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna win here. So yeah, that's gonna suck. I guess that puts us in a fine place to start covering the news. We have a lot of news left over from the weekend, which is fine. Like that seems to be the way that it's gonna go. I think it's only fair to also point out that YouTube, in part, had its streaming messed up earlier today, and I was gonna try and stream anyways, but there was a chance that this footage wouldn't stream at all, so
none can escape my fury.
So yeah, that's like I've complained about other services certainly, and pointed out that their services have gone down or had problems. This is the first time YouTube has had those kind of problems. YouTube is very good, frankly, about keeping mechanical problems to a minimum. For as big of a service as it is, it's just really terrible about policy problems. So let's I guess try to rush through all of this. I'm behind, I guess, in recording. Like I'm trying not to let that become the attitude that I adopt. I've been in that attitude too much over the past few years of just like, oh, I'm behind, I need to make more content, I need to make more content. But I am behind, sure. I should do more than what is the equivalent of 3 or 4 episodes, particularly when they're 30-minute episodes now. At most. Like, I should be making double the amount of episodes and content, but I'm not. I'm just giving myself, I think, more realistic goals instead of overworking myself like I was before.
Job's done.
So we have a game on Steam here called Maestro Avila Mia Flora. This sounds like it is a Spanish game, and it looks like an RPG Maker game. English is not supported, 66%, and it's Italian. Okay, I was wrong about that.
Will offer you aid.
So I guess I'm not that good at identifying Italian. But yeah, if we could have a shorter stream, I say it every time, the more the better. There's a definite disconnect between the amount of ambition I have when I start streaming and the amount of energy I have by the time I'm done streaming. And a lot of that is doing the 3 accounts and just streaming for longer and longer. Unfortunately, that's the only thing that works with YouTube. 99% of my problems I think would be solved if the YouTube algorithm just gave pre-recorded footage a better shot. Like when something is scheduled to air today, promote that to people. And there's definitely a lot of a lack of that, certainly, because even when you go and search something, most of the time it's recommending something that's months old, years old. Like I typed in a Pink Floyd song into YouTube just the other day, and you would think that there's people doing Pink Floyd covers all the time, or that there would be a chance out there at least that somebody would do a good cover and it would be good or worth listening to, or at least it would be fresh and new, and so that some of those would be suggested. No, like the top 2 things are 12 and 13 years old, and all they are somebody who did a low effort, I'm gonna put a Photoshop slideshow over the song, and it's not even a Vimeo thing, so I guess nobody's content IDing Pink Floyd, or nobody cares. And yeah, so at least the first 3 links are the same 3 links I would have gotten a year ago. Which I know because I typed in the exact same song about a year ago. And so if you were to do a cover on Pink Floyd, you'd probably have to type in that song title and cover, and even then you probably still wouldn't show up in the top 10 results unless somebody goes in the filter and says filtered by newest. So it's practically impossible for anybody who's doing what is admittedly not the most in creative creation ever, but it's a real great example in my mind of how YouTube's algorithm just loves views so much so, and it loves watch time that's proven versus watch time that it is speculative. So when a new video comes out from anybody, YouTube can only guess as far as what the watch time on that new video is. So why would it promote that video when it could just say, well, we know a lot of people love to watch the 24-hour live stream of the tunes to study by, or any of those things, which are still around, but at least they got rid of the live trending tab because they realized that was literally doing nothing for actual creators and just being abused. Let's see. Nightwolf's on the chat. He says hi. Hi, Nightwolf. Nightwolf, have you been on the chat before? You sound new. Well, hello. Either way, apologies if you have, and I just forgot. Let's see, moving on. Gamatsu has an article. Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle Naoto, that's N-A-O-T-O, Kuragane battle trailer. So a new Blaze Blue game is out. It's a minute and 6 game. Like, seems like there's going to be an arcade version, a PS4, Switch, and PC versions in the spring. Let's see. Why does this not... Oh, this does work. Just plain win. Nightwolf put a frowny face. I guess he has been on the chat before. Apologies. See, we need Druid and Hunter victories. I heard about some of the Hall of Fame nerf cards that are going away, and how Disguised Toast says that that's going to make it practically impossible to play Druid. Natural Eyes is one of the cards that's going into the Hall of Fame. And he, in Disguised Toast, explained that if you have the dust to craft something right now for 1600 dust, when it gets nerfed and put in the Hall of Fame, you'll get that, you'll get an amount of dust extra. So it is actually a really good idea to look up all of the games cards that are going to be nerfed and craft 2 copies of them. You shouldn't craft golden copies because it's a neutral effect. But yeah, there's at least 6 cards that are going into the Hall of Fame during the next when the next expansion comes out. So I should get some dust, and there is a better way that you could benefit from that if you're crafting cards that you really don't want to play with, particularly if you're not playing Wild. So you could craft a card, get the dust, and then decraft the card later on.
Time waits for no one.
Can't do anything, even though I have 2 extra mana right now. Let's see.
Not on my watch.
Nightwolf says, I even beat you in Hearthstone. Oh. Well, apologies, I slept since then.
For the wilds.
It's been a long week. I guess I shouldn't ask that question. That's me being socially awkward. You should probably never ask somebody, "Hey, are you new?"
Reporting for duty.
So yeah. So a new Blaze Blue game is coming out. Cross Tag Battle Naoto Kuragane. If you're, I'm still not really sure where the Blaze Blue game series falls in the ranks of fighting games. Seems like every time I take a step forward to thinking about, alright, I now understand the ways of fighting games, and which ones are the good ones and which ones are the ones not worth playing. A new wrench gets thrown in the works. moving on to what is, I suppose, the continuing big story, and I imagine this is gonna just be the big story for forever until somebody else does something that's worth reporting. In the same way that Activision Blizzard's layoff of 800 employees was going to be the big story forever until this happened. And sadly, I think the extremely expensive Season 1 pass of DOA 6 is not big enough to trump this story, but I'm not going to try and rant on this too much or get too deep in it. Gamasutra has kind of a follow-up article here. THQ Nordic Group CEO apologizes for perturbing 8chan AMA. THQ Nordic AB Chief Executive Lars Wingfors has apologized and taken full responsibility for the THQ Nordic GmbH's. I have no idea what General Manager BH recent AMA on the internet and blah blah blah. Despite the fact that THQ Nordic GmbH, a subsidiary of THQ Nordic AB. Let's see. So apparently, what you could take from this story, as I'm throwing out a bunch of nonsense letters, is that THQ has been growing and growing and growing, and apparently they've been breaking up their subsidiaries into sub-names with the main title of THQ Nordic. And you could potentially make an argument here that these subsidiary companies are just not under the same amount of control and the same amount of on the same page in general. That is one way you could take this. And so a subsidiary, not some unknown nobody subsidiary, but a subsidiary nonetheless, decided to do an AMA. It feels like, from what was being said, that they were totally the people who were in charge of advertising now, so it's not like a subsidiary tried to do some guerrilla advertising that was outside of their department. Let's see if there's anything. And I don't know if this seems like a new apology on top of the previous apology. Here's the quote. I take full responsibility for all THQ Nordic's GmbH's actions and communications. I spent the past several days conducting an internal investigation into the matter. I assure you that every member of the organization has learned from this past week's events, he wrote. So, I kind of have to applaud the idea of taking your time and not just doing a reactionary, well, that guy's fired, which is what reactionists, let's not even go any further than that. Let's just say that's what reactionist people always want in these scenarios, is that somebody actually lose their job, which firing a person is always the last option in any career path, and it shows that that person is not savable and cannot learn from their mistakes, which is not what you want. Like, particularly in professional environments, you've invested in that person, you've hired them, you've potentially got them on contract, so you'd have to pay out their whole contract. They may have a golden parachute if they're high in management. You just don't want to fire people flippantly, like reactionist people often call for. There's another quote here, quote, I take this matter very seriously and will take appropriate action to make sure we have the right policies and systems in place to avoid similar mistakes in the future. then there's that quote does not end on Gamma Sutra. They did not put in ending quotation marks. They just ended the paragraph, and then a new paragraph is, quote, "As a Swedish-based company, fast-growing group, we firmly support equality. They also support equity, but it says equality and diversity. We are working actively to combat discrimination, harassment, and misconduct. We are already in the process of developing new work processes and will accelerate this work going forward," end quote. Alright. So, that's what Gamma Sutra says. I will put my 2 cents into here, and I just think this is lesser of a story than it's being portrayed as. I feel like a significant amount of mainstream video game journalists, we talked about the THQ 8chan AMA, did not do any research at all. This is consistent with what we have seen with mainstream video game journalists. They simply read an article by WayForward's Patrick Klepek, who used to work for Giant Bomb, and that's where I know him from. But take note, he doesn't work for him now, so I suspect he was even too extreme for them even then. I think they read Patrick Klepek's article and did not even go to the AMA and look at it themselves. I think that there is an intentional ignorance being displayed here, either through laziness or malice, and I think some of it is straight malice. It is really, really easy to get into a junior high school mentality and just say that, say in your group of friends, in your clique, that somebody is stupid or mean or ugly, like, and that's really all that a lot of that feels like, is that all the game journalist people said AM8chan is this cesspool of hate speech and homophobia and brigading and child pornography, and none of that was there. As somebody who actually did the research and looked at the articles, there's just a bunch of trolls there. That's it. It's just like 4chan. It's just a bunch of trolls posting troll messages. And really all this comes down to, in my opinion, is this is mainstream video game journalism drawing a line saying we will not stop at any limit to discourage or slander any forum that supported Gamergate or didn't completely denounce it, or any forum that does not push a heavy, progressive, pro-censorship policy. Which is to say, if you are a video game company, and this is where THQ Nordic dropped the ball, is that they need to pretend like they are with the SJWs, as long as the SJWs run the journalist side. Or maybe they don't. Maybe that's what maybe THQ Nordic has learned, that actually we can have all the video game companies run their attack articles at us and it doesn't affect our bottom line at all. It's not unrealistic to believe that almost nobody looks at games reviews anymore from mainstream video games. But I think it's a little too early to do that. I think you're still getting a little bit of bad press, and you run the risk of something like this getting picked up by CNN or Fox News, and then you've got the parents and teachers who believe it, even though even though it's not really true. And I hate to use the fake news description, but it's kind of a fake news story. It really is. The way it was depicted. But for video game companies, I would suggest they should stick to Reddit or Reset Era, and only certain parts of Reddit too. And I'm not sure if there's really another place that you could do an AMA. You could do it on Facebook, you could do it on Twitter, but even doing it on Facebook or Twitter would potentially get a little bit of blowback, but you'd get away with it, Facebook or Twitter. But if you want to try and do an AMA anywhere else, I think you're going to get attacked. And particularly if it's a place that is not hyper censorship. You could probably do a live stream AMA on Twitch and YouTube. But yeah, this whole THQ Nordic on 8chan, it just to wrap up, it was a dumb move for THQ Nordic to do, unless they were testing the waters for something completely different. To say we're going to just blackball, like you would do this action if your next step was to say we are blackballing all mainstream video game journalists and we are only going directly to streamers and fans of our products. It's not particularly like THQ Nordic's games have been getting very well reviewed lately. That's in a lot of fault of their own, because their games haven't been particularly good. But yeah, Darksiders 3 not really getting a lot of coverage, and Darksiders 3 not reviewed very well. But you really would have to at this point say we're just not giving out press packs. We're not giving out any news to anybody whatsoever. And I don't think a big company can do that. I think you'd have to be a small indie company that never did it and just said, I never needed you for my success, and you never reviewed my games without me giving you free codes. So yeah, it's more of a fantasy than reality to say that they realize that people don't read reviews from a lot of these sites at all. It's also, I guess, a great example of just Gamergate has become like a religion or politics to particularly mainstream video game journalists. They're still talking about it years later when nobody cares. So, I mean, what can you really do about that? It's like, it's best that the video game companies just stay out of it and not mention it in a lot of ways. Yeah, and that's that story. If there's anything more to the story that's legitimate to talk about, I'll report upon it. But I suspect, and I don't know how accurate my guesses of what will happen in the future have been so far, but I heavily suspect that we will get a lot of people in games journalism trying to reference it back, trying to mention it again. We'll have people will be putting out articles about THQ Nordic doing this years from now. Meanwhile, THQ Nordic is just going to move on with its life and try and continue to be a giant, huge company that sells lots of games. So moving on, the other controversy of last week, I suppose. TechRaptor has a review for Devotion. It says Devotion review, nostalgia tinged with regret and tragedy. Let's jump to the bottom and see what TechRaptor has to say about this game that's not currently, I think, available. Well, interesting. This is, I believe, the second time I've seen a review this high on TechRaptor. They gave Devotion a 9.5 amazing. Says summary is Devotion is a story about a deeply personal tragedy made both more horrific and familiar with its carefully recreated 80s setting of a Taiwanese house that successfully draws on the feelings of nostalgia and its target audience. Well, not being Taiwanese might be a problem then to play the game, but I doubt it's too big of a problem. Alright, what do I want to do? Yeah, let's do this.
The eternal hunt has begun.
And then I'll end the turn there. So the pros are authentic 80s Taiwanese/Chinese atmosphere, professionally produced live action footage, excellent voice acting, uniquely visualized scenarios, especially effective for a Chinese audience. Now, it's worth mentioning the reason why Devotion is not available for sale is because one of the artists slipped in an insult to the Chinese president, and then either actual Chinese citizens with actual feelings reviewed it, bombed, and expressed their free speech, which they can't do in their own country, or a bunch of Chinese trolls that are paid by the government in the same way Russian trolls are mostly paid by the government, gone in there and review bombed it. So, and who knows, there's no way to tell the difference. Like, I can't look into the hearts and minds of the people who were review bombing. All I can say is some of their posts definitely seem to misconstrue an insult against the Chinese president as an insult to all of China, which I don't agree with as a valid argument. Wonder why we have this dust effect. What is causing this dust effect? The cons of the game were completed in 3 to 4 hours, a walking simulator gameplay, some scenarios don't fit well, and cultural context may be required. This was written by a staff writer named Samantha Oi, O-O-I, who I suspect is Taiwanese based on her picture, but I kind of don't have any way of knowing that. Let's see.
Bow to the fang and claw.
There we go. So here, we'll do a web peek here. So here's Samantha Oi, ex-game studio grunt, now freelance writer, flirting around, just Don't ask me about what I've seen. Says staff writer, so that means she's on staff. And there's 0 comments at this time on this article. Let's see, TechRaptor reviewed Devotion with a key from the developers. That's standard for TechRaptor and most mainstream video game journalists, which I'm not even sure TechRaptor falls into that. They talk about the controversy at the beginning paragraph. Oh, they're calling it Poogate, P-O-O-H, as in Winnie the Pooh. Interesting. So, take what you want from this. Either you trust TechRaptor to not put out a what would not be a hit piece, but the opposite of a hit piece, to help support a game that is getting unfairly reviewed bombed,
I must protect the
or unfairly rated based on, well, I don't know. See, that's the problem with reviews. Almost any review is valid in my mind. If you think the game is awful because of one piece of art that was slipped in, one Easter egg, how is that opinion any less valid than to say you think the game is awful because of a myriad of hundreds of glitches or hundreds of bugs? If it ruins the experience and you're not a satisfied customer, and particularly on Steam, you have to be a customer to review it, that is fine. Like, if you're willing to spend money to become a customer just to say you're not a satisfied customer, how is that wrong? So, yeah. Personally, on the screenshots that I'm seeing, and I guess we could just do full-on web peek here. This isn't much of a screenshot, sir, but this looks really cool. I've seen a few Taiwanese shows on Netflix, so I kind of have some nostalgia, particularly 80s Taiwanese era time. I think they're not too different, frankly, from Korean societies that I've seen in Korean TV shows. So it's not too hard to get into it and figure it out. Of course, I wouldn't have full nostalgia for any of this. I would argue, though, that this writer probably does have, and they're saying it in their own article, is that the reason why they are liking this game so much is because of their nostalgia and their history, it seems like.
Beetleberries, my favorite.
So, yeah. I'd like to see more Taiwanese games come out, certainly, but there is also a point to be made that very few United States games, as somebody who's in the United States, very few United States games, and I grew up in the United States, and I'm a United States citizen and all that. I don't know why I said it so oddly there. Let's see. I'm still saying it oddly. I was born in the United States. Gosh. Yeah. Anyways, very few United States games come out to a worldwide market and are raw General Washington, Abraham Lincoln. The United States was so good when it declared its independence, or the 80s or the 70s or the 60s were so good in the United States. Inherently, I think a lot of that has to do to be down to the fact that times for a lot of people were not good at any particular time frame in the United States. But by the time video games got made, and could be made by the time that technology existed. The idea of any kind of cowboys or Indians or highly hyper patriotic shows had gone. So most video games, with the exception of like Battlefield and Battlefront, no, not Battlefront, but Battlefield and Call of Duty, with the exception of those games that came very late and were really designed to focus on a kind of secondary new audience to video games, the gamer bros that Xbox, the original Xbox, brought into video games. Like, we were always kind of doing sci-fi, we were always doing fiction, we were always doing fantasy. I would say that I would like to see, from all countries, a similar style of experience happen. Like, I don't want to see too many instances of I don't want to see too many instances of games that are trying to lean on something that can't be related to, or that are set on the real world. Although we could use more of that, frankly, too. So what I'm trying to say very awkwardly here is games from Taiwanese developers saying Taiwan is so great are really no better than if a game from an American developer were to make a game saying that America is so great. It's jingoistic, it's nationalistic, it's silly and unbelievable, and not something I would like to see become a trend or anything.
Time's up. Let's do this.
And we see some of that, I suppose, on the other Asian styles of games too. Chinese games typically are doing the great Chinese 3 novels or whatever it is, where it's Romance of the Three Kingdoms, or the Monkey King. Some Japanese games are trying to push that Japan is cool mentality. I think when you talk about a game like No More Heroes, that is a game that really is going for that anime Japan is cool mentality. It's just not actually the experience you would have if you were in Japan. Or every now and then you might see a visual novel that's romanticizing previous periods of Japanese history, but they don't do too much of that without also at least being somewhat honest about how the problems are too. So I guess this is inherently a problem of nostalgia, and nostalgia on the creator's part, and I can't blame a game developer for being nostalgic for what very well is their own past and their own history. But if you want to have worldwide appeal, it kind of has to be something that everybody can experience.
Beetleberries, my favorite.
Like, I think the game Gone Home is a great example of that. That was a game that I played that I had some relevance to when they're talking about old video games. That's something I can relate to, but there was a lot in that game that I don't have any experience with. I have never wandered around an old unfamiliar house that's three stories or 2 stories with a basement, and found a bunch of notes laying around talking about how my sister found out that she was gay, but she was potentially going to join the military. Like, that's not something that I have experienced, and yet I could still relate to it. And I think, for the most part, most people could relate to that, even if they're not from a Western country. That's a interesting thought, but also that was really, I don't even know if I want to call that one a rant as much as just thinking. Equal to its health, so I could take 10 damage, or I could draw a card. Let's start with that. I can't kill this guy in its current form. Draw 3 cards. Do that.
Sweet essence.
And we can do this.
Time waits for no one.
Has come.
Alright, moving on though, we got a lot of games to talk about. We've got Winter's Empty Mask visual novel. This one looks like it's maybe a Chinese visual novel with some kind of dungeon crawling aspects too. Looks like there's some bullying going on in the story. It's $14.99. Interesting, it's English and Latin American Spanish for 9 achievements. Like, why those languages? See, I can't really look at this and not see an Asian country. Like, I really don't see how this wasn't at least originally made by an Asian developer. But I suppose it's possible that you had all the artwork animated. No, because this thumbnail though also is very Asianish, and like a kimono, I think is what that's called. Yeah. So why English and Spanish? Interesting. I'll put this one on the fall list. I would say this art style is slightly rough, but not terrible by any means. Just a little lacking in sharp edges and details. Let's come back over here. Play this. And let's see. That. And do that. And
Ambrosia.
kill that. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Kikido Kintaro's Revenge. This looks like a straight up anime. Is this even a game? Oh, it is a game with just a like old 80s anime kind of intro. Like, look at this art style. This is the kind of anime nostalgia art style. It's not the moe. It's not just trying to. Even the eyes are kind of small compared to what they do. Yeah, this looks like a fighting beat 'em up game. $6.99. Lots of languages supported, discounted. I don't know of this developer or this publisher, and this looks old school. So this might be a callback to old school games, or this might be a re-release. It says a timeless classic as its description. I don't know if that's true or not. So this is a game I'd have to put on the follow list and probably do a little bit of research on to see, did somebody make an old school arcade beat 'em up, and is that something I would want to play, considering how I haven't gotten around to covering any of the real old school beat 'em ups, or is this a remaster re-release? But yeah, that definitely deserves to be on the follow list, which normally when we look at these games, it's pretty easy to say, that's garbage, that's garbage, that's garbage. But so far we've had a pretty good look at like 3 games. Next we have a game on Steam called Matchy Gotchi Z, which I assume is a match 3 game of some sort. There's a lot of buttons happening here. It says it's a simulation game. Like, I cannot... This is all cartoony in the trailer. It's a colorful digital pet game. Early access, $4.79 discounted, English only. I don't think this needs to be on the follow list because it's early access. I think immediately you lose my attention then. Like, if you're making a digital pet game, there's no reason to not say have an initial release, and if you decide to add more content to a digital pet game a year later, which is probably a good idea, you put that out as DLC or a free update or something like that. You don't say 6 months to a year later that now it's finally out of early access and this is the real game we always intended it to be. Digital pet games in particular, like I'm playing Kleptocats 1 and 2, and that's kind of a digital pet game, although it's kind of silly too, and they put out updates for that, at least Kleptocats 2 every 6 months or so. So yeah, if they told me Kleptocats 2 was an early access, I would take offense to that, quite frankly. TechRaptor has an article, When the Darkness Comes review, Meaningful Meaninglessness, or not lessness, but meaningless. I'll scroll down and see what review they gave. TechRaptor really is the only game that it's the only company in town anymore that I'm actually looking at any review scores for, and I'm probably wrong to even do that. It might save me a little bit of time. I've been giving a little thought to things that might save some time, and a little bit less personal goofing around on YouTube in particular would probably save me a lot more time to do more work, but it's always a delicate balance. Do I want to work myself to death and make myself miserable, or do I want to stay informed and have fun with life? Anyways, When the Darkness Comes got a 9.0, amazing, so maybe TechRaptor has just decided to give everything really high scores lately. When the Darkness Comes is a surprisingly smart horror game that manages to blend in the introspective narrative elements seamlessly. Prose, great story, neat meta elements, lovely scenes, scary cons, occasional gameplay blunders. And this is from a different reviewer, Samuel Golimo, who is an associate review editor. Interesting. I wonder why a review editor. He's got the wrong title to be reviewing a game, quite frankly. If you're a review editor, you shouldn't be reviewing games. Let's see. When the Darkness Comes is apparently on Steam for free? see. When I Google it, it's like the 4th link because there's a song called When the Darkness Comes. Well, what did I just do? I just closed it accidentally. Oh, I see. It is on. It's a link I already had opened. So that's the problem. So we can just talk about this right now. So When the Darkness Comes is a game on Steam. It looks, frankly, like something I could easily skip over and just go, oh, this is not something I'm interested in playing. So it's free, which means what? I guess I can put it on the follow list and maybe cover it at some point. There's no microtransactions labeled here or anything. There's no donation DLC. I would like, frankly, to see more Kickstarter games come out on Steam for free after a certain level. Like, I don't know if people really would be cool with that, but there's a lot of bad games that get made through Kickstarter or through real support of real fans, but then try to sell themselves and double dip. So it depends how much of an artist you want to be and how much you care about your art being seen. This is just tagged as a walking simulator game. But yeah, I'll put that on the follow list, I suppose, and we'll... and if I ever decide to play some more free games, or if I need some more games free. Oh, I should mention I did get the Neptunia Humble Bundle for $12, which was kind of expensive, but not too much for all those Neptunia games, which are a little bit niche. There is a bit of a trap in there, though. You get the DLC for Four Goddesses Online, or something like the game, something like that. It's like in the first tier, so you always get the DLC, but you don't get the base game. So you would then either have to go to the Humble store that had it for sale for another $3 to buy the game, and I was like, after spending $12 on that, I'm not willing to go that extra distance. Let's see, 369 plus 5 is 14. Let's just play some cards before we win. So yeah, so now I have this Steam code for DLC that I can't activate because I don't own the base game, which kind of sucks, but whatever, you know. It was still a pretty good deal for a niche adult JRPG series. A lot of games in that series. There's still like 3 Neptunia games on my wish list that weren't in that bundle, but that removed a lot of things from the wish list that have frankly just been things that I've had to skip over many times, or just talk about over and over again. And there is this desire in me to want to get most of the games to cycle off the wish list, because I don't think at the end of this year, but the end of next year, so December 2020, I'll probably need to do another video where I do a wishlist cleanup. And if I'm doing another series of videos where I'm doing wishlist cleanup and talking about the same games that I talked about 2 years previously, that's going to be repetitive, but not too repetitive, quite frankly. I think most people would have forgotten by then. But there is a certain point there too where I don't want to have all the adult games just always on the wish list, because I'd like to actually support the adult game creators and not look like a big old perv. I just want to look like a medium perv. Speaking of pervs, I think this is family friendly, at least this screenshot. Galgun Pixies is coming to the West for the Switch and PC in 2019. P-Cube again is handling the publishing duties. P-Cube is a weird choice. So it's rather surprising, but not. I mean, if it was 10 years earlier, this would be jaw-dropping. Surprising that a Galgun game would be coming to the Switch, but you know, the Switch has really embraced like all comers as far as adult games, even in the West. So there's a trailer here. I'll look at it. Because you're playing this at least on the Switch with the Joy-Cons, I imagine since it's an on-rail shooter series, you're gonna be dual shooting. Two different guns, a bunch of anime characters that have been infected by, well, I think the series is that their little anime demons have taken over the hearts of some of the girls, the anime girls. Although in this game it seems like instead of being just run and attacked by a random group of schoolgirls that are running towards you, this seems like this is much more focused on very specific characters.
Time waits for no one.
And the trailer seems to be implying you're going to have smaller experiences where you're shooting your love gun at them, and one of them was the sniper section. One of the things in the trailer, there was a girl in the bathtub and she was covered up by bubbles. So this might not be as much an on-rail shooter as it is something closer to a sniper game where you're going to target and shoot the same person multiple times. Yeah, they're describing it the crazy Japanese third-person shooter and 3D platformer in one sends two tiny girls from outer space to Earth so that if they can infiltrate a woman's college dormitory, so they've moved it from high school to college. Once arrived, the pixies stealthily bustle about the regularly sized girls' towering legs in rooms to fulfill their mission, studying human behavior in order to overcome the social issues of their beloved home planet.
That's incredible.
So the only thing that seems to be staying from the original story is the general idea of like it really does seem like it's just the general idea of shooting anime girls, and everything else seems like it's been changed. Okay, well, Galgun as a series, Galgun 1 and Galgun 2, and then there was some other console slight modifications that were released, hasn't been extremely reviewed So I'm not sure how good the on-rail shooter is, element of it is, but clearly it's selling well enough to its target audience. Like, having just played the Star Wars on-rail shooter games from 1993, I would be happy to find an on-rail shooter game on Steam that is actually good, but I don't know what would be a good choice there, because you have like Typing of the Dead, which is a conversion of an on-rail shooter to a typing game, but can you play House of the Dead? Can you play some of those classic light gun games from arcades?
Let the hunt begin. Bring it on.
Or is there an on-rail shooter that is newer that would make sense and potentially be a little bit more family friendly for YouTube than Galgun Pixies would be, or the Galgun series? I definitely want to own and play the Galgun series, but I don't know how I would present it, frankly. And they are a series that also has a ton of DLC, so it's pretty easy to get ripped off there too. And some of the DLC in one of the Galgun games I think are contradictory. So you buy one and then you undo the effect of a previous one you bought, which seems like it shouldn't even be allowed to do that on Steam. This story from Gamatsu is surprising. Friday the 13th, the game is coming to the Switch this spring. This is very surprising in a couple of ways. One, Friday the 13th, the game is not really getting played very much. I imagine its player base is actually incredibly small. We could actually click on their page and see about that. See what the player base is. But the more surprising thing here is they said, and this felt like a lie even at the time, but they swore up and down because there was a conflicting claims on who owned the rights to the Friday the 13th name and trademark, that they could no longer sell or work on Friday the 13th the game. And they basically abandoned it, and it wasn't even really finished. Well, at least that's what they were saying. Apparently there was a patch hit on January 30th. So what they said probably was just a straight up lie. It seems like I've lost the plugin that tells me how many people are playing online, though, because I don't see that anymore. They must have shut down that plugin or that site that it was pulling that information from. That being said, one thing I could say is right now this game is 67% positive and it's overall only 70% positive. So in the last 30 days it's been 67% positive for a Friday the 13th game. And I'm watching a trailer as Jason Voorhees is sticking a lady's head in the toilet.
I can't do that.
Trying to drown her. Like, these murder cutscenes are kind of all that is even slightly interesting of the Friday the 13th game. Its asymmetric gameplay is not good. So yeah, I don't know how you can justify releasing Friday the 13th the game on Switch. I don't see how you think you're gonna grow your audience or get a lot of sales there. I don't even think you make back your money on that. As just an armchair video game critic and economist, that's how it's said. My suspicion is the development cost you would put in to make a Switch version would not get recouped at this point. This game came out on May 26, 2017. Yeah. The only thing I could maybe guess is that during the Kickstarter for this game, they promised a Switch version or a Wii U version, even possibly, and then they backed down on that version, but they had already done a lot of work on that. So, or perhaps their lawyers are telling them they are in legal jeopardy if they don't release the Switch version, so they're going to release just like a garbage version because of that. I mean, that could be it too. Because if they made an actual promise, they could get sued otherwise. And this is definitely not something I've seen anybody mention. By the way, Friday the 13th on Steam is $19.99 right now, but then if you were to buy all of the DLC, you're putting another $14.94 in it. So you'd be paying about $45 for a game. I'm not even sure this game is worth $10 though. The fact that there really isn't a single player experience here is what kills you. Like, it's hard to make that justification.
Job's done.
Let's see, misdirection. Maybe the port was just really easy. It's a strange announcement, but I guess it's kind of a day for strange announcements in general. So, just keep playing. I wonder if this, I mean, this wouldn't do anything, would it? Komatsu has another article. Trine 4, The Nightmare Prince, launches this fall alongside a Trine Ultimate Collection. Both titles available physically and digitally. So, in an effort, I suppose, to just move forward quickly and forget about the mess that was Trine 3, they've made a Trine 4. Apparently Trine 4 is going to be $30, whereas the Ultimate Collection will be $50. Trine 1 and 2 are kind of still liked, so not probably a bad idea to think about getting the Ultimate Collection. Of course, I also wouldn't be surprised if they were to make a Trine 5, so I'm not sure if this is the time. Let's see what this does. There we go. Yep. It wasn't but maybe 6 months ago that Trine 3 came out. But yeah, that was a mistake to release such a bad game, and there's definitely, I think, a legitimate reason to question whether Frozen Byte, the creators of Trine, are going to be financially stable and make it through 2019. I've already pretty much estimated that 2019 will be the year of a lot of layoffs and bankruptcies and such. Let's see.
I hunt alone. Job's done.
It's got me down to 1 health. TechRaptor has an article. Dissidia NT Free Edition is coming to the PS4 and PC. Dissidia is the Final Fantasy online game. So, yeah. I don't know if there's really a lot to say there. Other than, yeah, Square Enix is losing its fan base, so it needs to try and gain it back. We still need to get a victory with a Shaman and Warlock, or you know what, I could wait until Wednesday and see if I can re-roll that for some more gold. We just really need to get one more Druid or Hunter victory. And let's see. We're at about an hour and a half. Let's go one more game and let's see if we can do this, and if we can't, we'll break up the recording there.
Malfurion versus Lunara.
I must protect the wild.
TechRaptor has another article. The Occupation Review Press Trespass. This is a game I don't think I've heard about, so it may be not out yet. Let's see. The last paragraph I happen to see here says The Occupation is the second title by White Paper Games, followed by the somewhat underrated game Myst-like game Ether 1. I love Myst, so Ether 1 is something that interests me. Both games are ingenious and compelling, blah 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 blah. I don't know, is TechRaptor just taking on a very positive attitude this week? Because they gave this game also a 9.5 out of amazing. Summary: The Occupation is a taut investigation, simulation, and stealth thriller. It's infused with realistic and multi-dimensional approach to mechanic systems and level design. This is a must-play for fans of Deus Ex or Dishonored. I liked both of those games, so that sounds like something I want to try. It is on Steam. Alright. Let's see. The pros are astoundingly detailed art direction. What can I do? Just in the turn there. Complex and interlinked systems, brainy convoluted narrative, immersive atmosphere and setting, multi-dimensional level design. When they say multi-dimensional level design, does that mean you go into different dimensions, or does that mean it's just verticality instead of a flat plane? What am I trying to do here? Draw a card. Just draw a card. Give me something to play. And give me some armor. I think I'm at the max. I have just like the worst collection of cards here. And then a pro is original interactive mechanics. The cons are somewhat clunky controls, and it gets easier as you progress. This is definitely an example of a game that I would have missed. This game called The Occupation. It did not... The links I'm clicking on are taking me to the Humble store for Ether 1 and The Occupation. But unless it's a game, well, it says it's coming soon, so maybe I wouldn't have missed it, come to think of it. Alright. Empty mana crystal. and this. And then in the turn. Moving on, we have an article, TechRaptor has an article, a Alpha Black Lotus auction sells for $160,000, breaking the previous record by nearly double. So, okay. This isn't video game related per se. The Black Lotus Magic the Gathering cards are like the most expensive cards, I think, ever, if they're the Alpha series. But it does kind of go to show the insanity and the insane price that you might get if you have something that is a first series, probably mint condition item. But it also has to be very rare, and it has to be something that was not really thought to be a collectible, even though Magic the Gathering is a collectible card game. Nobody really thought that those cards would be rare in any way, since they were printing so many copies of them. And it was just a kid's game. For every story of great success like that, there are billions of stories of Alpha Generation land cards, I'm sure, that aren't worth anything. Okay. What can I do? Let's do this. And then do this. Next we have a game on Steam called Tetralogic, which seems like it's a number matching game of some sort. I'm not really getting it. It almost looks like a paint by number game, or it's like a match 3 game. Seems like it's half Tetris and half fill in paint by number. Let's see. See if we can find the video and see an explanation on how this plays. Alright. Cunning game. Let's see. Place your Tetra pieces well to get the best score. Play against the clock, human, or other components. So you're eating away at this with Tetra pieces, apparently. Let's see, gain 2 mana crystals. Labels. Draw all 3 cards.
Time waits for no one.
Tetralogic is early access and $4.99 with English only as its list. Yeah, so not a game I think that needs to be on the fall list. Speaking of nothing really, I'm gonna have to wrap up this pretty fast and then take a break. So let's wrap up this game and just focus here. I may have to just concede because I don't think I'm gonna win here. Yeah, let's just concede. Nature calls. Literally. Like I have nothing else to do, and I could drag this out, but This feels like it's slightly playable, but I don't think really is. So I'm just going to concede here.
I concede.
And that means we'll go back to the idle screen, which is not enabled, so I'll have to click that myself, and then people can chat on the chat if they want to. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is, what is today? Monday, March 4th. And we are on the main account. Sorry, I'm taking too much time here. So we're trying to get one more druid or hunter victory, and then I can leave the other one to be re-rolled as far as a daily quest for Wednesday. And we need to get through the news, which we're always a little slow at the beginning of these streams to do, so yeah, let's try and get through all these games and see what we can do. So we've got a game on Steam here called Super Beam that looks like it's a VR music game according to the tags. There was a Reddit post talking about how the tags and the categories and all of that on Steam aren't very helpful. And you know, it's kind of true, it kind of isn't, but like whatever. Super Beam is $10.70 discounted. It to me looks like it is probably just a Beat Saber clone. I don't see anything here that would justify putting this on the follow list. Let's get rid of all of these. Yeah. I'm a little bit out of breath from walking from point A to point B. Shows that I'm pretty terribly unhealthy. Let's take this. Sure, why not? There I guess is a chance that I could get through all the news in this next hour and have some daily quests that still need to be done, but I don't know if I really believe that. Alright, so if I play this now, let's do this first, and then this. See, next we have a game on Steam called Knee Touches Paws 5, which seems like it is one of these low polygon platforming games. We've seen a lot of these. You know, it's a Flappy Bird clone basically, just with some improvements. The general idea of Flappy Bird has been improved upon as more people have tried to make games like this, but it's still not something I would want to play. This is 99 cents with no discount. And if this is 5, I suspect that there probably are 4 other games. Nope, there aren't actually 4 other games from this developer. Instead, there are several other games that look like they are kind of low effort games at the minimum. And we can now do that. And we can now try that. We have an article here from GameIndustry.biz. I tried to listen to GameIndustry.biz's podcast, and frankly, I probably shouldn't listen to any podcast from any news source I follow, because it's just going to prove my suspicions that they're all kind of SJWE and not something that I really want to listen. Not the people I should put my faith into for news, but unfortunately that's kind of all your choices are. So yeah, I was like 5 minutes into it and I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't be listening to this. Like, GameIndustry.biz so far has proven itself to be at least adept enough to not make it blatantly obvious that they are biased in their reporting. They try to write with a very flat tone and just give the facts and nothing else. And that's what I should feel and expect from them, all video game journalists, myself included, and I know I don't do that. So if I'm reporting the news, I should do that. If I'm reporting an opinion, I can have whatever opinion I have. Let's see. This. And this. Then end the turn. Anyways, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Tencent among the shortlist bidders for Nexon. Netmarble not invited, but forms consortium with MBK partners. The main bidding begins in early April, and this could be worth 13. It could be worth as much as 13.3 billion US dollars for Nexon. This is kind of like an old article, though. It's just getting rehashed. Like, the irony here will be Nexon will just decide to not pull itself or do something else, which is typically what happens a lot of times when this stuff goes on, is the companies get an idea of how valuable their company actually is, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, well, never mind, then we'll just stay in business, or we'll get investments from other people instead of selling the company. This is putting your company up for sale and then taking it off the table for sale is a great way to prove to people who won't give you a loan that they should give you a loan. And while maintaining control of your company. So this could just be financial shenanigans. And all that, and I still end up losing. I think I probably should just go to casual play at this point. It's been an hour and 30 minutes and I've failed to get 3 victories.
Greetings, friend.
Next we have a game on Steam called Forever Lost. You don't need to see me lose. It's some kind of horror adventure game. Honestly, I would be willing to put this on the wish list if it weren't for the fact that it's $3.99 right now, and this developer is releasing it episodically. So episode 1 is here, but if we come over here and start a new game, episode 2 is been labeled to come out in June 20th of apparently 2013. That's what that says, is 2013. So 6 years ago this game was supposed to come out, or he just typed in the wrong information. And that episode 2 is $5.99. Let's come over here and just play this. And then episode 3 is labeled here 2015. So clearly this guy has just been planning an episodic release of his game for years and years and years, and he's years behind. And even being years behind, he's still trying to release episodics. And this is $8.99 for this game. So you're up to quite a lot of price for 3 episodes, and he only has 1. Apparently, Forever Lost 1 was supposed to come out in 2012, so incredibly delayed. Like, unacceptably delayed. This game is still being sold as an episodic thing. Yeah. That's the level of quality that no one deserves to purchase, in my opinion. Like, that's just bad. And you didn't even go on your websites and update any of the dates. You didn't re-release it or rebundle it. You didn't even update it to what the right way would be to do something like that, which would be to have episode 1 on one page and then have DLC for episode 2 and 3, instead of having them be standalone Steam pages. Steam could use a curator, certainly. One person whose job is just to look at people's pages and say, you know what, this is not the standard mode of operation that we should have. This looks bad. This is not how we want our storefront to look. We're not going to let people flood our storefront with 5 different episodes. Like, it would be pretty easy too to just have one person look at game pages that are flagged, because they can just be flagged, this game needs curation, this game page needs curation, and then that would be it. And then they'd look at it and then they would say yes it does or no it doesn't, and then move on. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Quantum Legend VR Show, which looks kind of cool, but the frame rate is awful. It's a VR game, it's free. Like, the idea is not terrible. English and Chinese. Jumping around, shooting a robot. It reminds me of one of the sections of one of the Wolfenstein remake games, where you're fighting this giant robot and you're running around. That fight went on way too long though. But the actual video shows a really bad frame rate. And it's a free VR game anyway, so why would I put it on the follow list? Next we have a game on Steam called Brits Racing. We've seen better top-down arcade-style racing dirt rally track games. This looks bad. It's early access for no reason. This is not the kind of game that deserves to be allowed to even have early access. It wants $8.99, English only languages. So yeah, that's not making it to the follow list either. Alright. And with that, that was all I needed to do on the Americas side, so we can now move over to the European side, and let's hopefully hope that spices things up and we can do something different besides play a bunch of hunter games and some druid games, none of which actually won as far as druid games. Looking at a YouTube video that is, I think, a Persona spin-off game, but it's just showing off all the characters in 2 different forms, a small chibi form and their normal form. You need to do Rumble Run bosses, playing as the hunter. Let's see if we can do that. That would be the overload. Rumble Run. Start. I don't know if I'm playing as a hunter. That seems like a paladin. Whatever. I don't know if self-sacrifice is what I'm trying to do. I think it probably is, though. So let's do this.
As you grow in strength, so do your enemies. Put on a good show, hmm?
Yeah, this Japanese trailer is really just...
Sentimo!
What?
Go. Tadpool.
It's really just showing me all the characters. It's some kind of Persona mobile game, but it's all in Japanese, so interesting. It's a Sega published video. It has barely, slightly below 2,000 views, 66 upvotes, 1 downvote. For 2,000 views, that's a lot of upvotes, I suppose. It's a small amount of views for Sega, though. I guess maybe that's part of the problem with my YouTube videos, too, is there's just not enough people upvoting them.
Remember, the power is in the shrine.
Like, I don't do a bunch of this BS where I'm asking people to thumbs up the video right at the beginning before they've even seen it, but it feels like you kind of have to do that to be successful on YouTube. So it's so ridiculous. You have to make the quality of videos on YouTube worse to succeed on YouTube. Like I recently saw this video, this YouTube channel that's really just a YouTube channel promoting a software, like a high-level IT software that end users really wouldn't use, and to promote this high-level IT software, they've got the people that work for them like trying out different energy drinks and doing what's in the box challenges and just like every cliched meme. This is getting views right now, so let's make a video based off that, and it has like nothing to do with the software. It makes your channel look kind of ridiculously unprofessional, but I'll be darned if it probably doesn't help.
You got naughty battle.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Shop Battle, which is a probably asset flip grocery store where you're throwing bananas at floating targets. It doesn't make any sense to me. It looks like this is 59 cents discounted, English only. It's not VR related though, so it feels like a game that very possibly could have started off as a VR game. But yeah, that's not a logical good experience there that they're offering. It's just randomness. Let's go in. Gamatsu has an article, Sword Art Online Hollow Realization Deluxe Edition for the Switch launches May 24th in Americas and Europe. I think we can probably show off any screenshots here from this Sword Art Online. That's not much of a screenshot they've got there. Seems like it was first launched on the PS4 and Vita. They're not making Vitas anymore in 2016. A PC version came out in 2017, and now it's just getting re-released again. Sword Art Online, I guess, still... I think it's actually made it into the zeitgeist of people's minds. So, I think it's going to be around for just pretty much forever going forward. Hoping this just hits either me or him. See, after your hero takes damage, deal 5 damage to the enemy hero. Oh, I can do that.
You got naughty.
Yeah, I don't think Sword Art Online is going to disappear. It's probably going to maintain a level of relevance like Monster Rancher. Like, that's something that's coming back because of an anniversary and no other reason, it feels like. Equip Champion, Overkill, gain Divine Shield. Let's take that. That's the one we want. Yeah. There almost certainly will be, in a few years, 4 to 8 years, I would say, a group of adults that are embarrassed that they were into Sword Art Online somewhat, but not super much. Because, like, right now there are groups of adults that were probably slightly embarrassed at one point that they were into Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but now it's very cool. Or it's cool enough to say you're into Dragon Ball Z. Nobody's gonna look at you funny for it. They might look at you funny if you say you're still into Dragon Ball Z and you're into your mid-40s or 30s. But even then, that's very possibly not going to be the case. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. New studio Reworks opens, raises $1.5 million in funding. Helsinki development team aims to challenge leaders in mobile customization game space. So they're going to make mobile games from Helsinki. So it's probably not something I'm super interested in. Let's see. If I do this, then do this. This next article was quite shocking, I would say. TechRaptor has an article. Conan Exiles patch adds new purges, a world boss, and role-playing options. And what's shocking about that to me is the fact that they're still working on Conan Exiles. They've already announced that they were going to... that there was a new Conan game in development, and I'm surprised that they're working on that. Nobody's really playing Conan Exiles, and I still think you have to pay to play, where that may have been a game that would have succeeded a lot better had if you had just focused it on a free-to-play with microtransactions or policy. The problem, though, I would say, in a bigger set, is Conan Exiles was just not a game first. It was a collection of survival Minecraft elements with no real story or ideas behind it. I feel like the aesthetic, the visual aesthetic, and the feel of a Conan series would work, but you need a good game developer behind it. And when you have that specific requirement, why not just make a game that isn't a Conan game? So this will take damage, which will do this damage, which will then do this damage, and then... by the way, that's a 3-card combo there. Yeah, there really is no way you could stop somebody from making something like a Conan game. A barbarian-esque time with lots of blood and fighting and very little clothing, like, and magical monsters. Like, there's really nothing in there I think that you could say would be a copyright violation, short of just having the name Conan in the name. And even then, I think at most that's just a registered trademark. So, what's probably more surprising is, why has no one else created a game in this style? Why do we have Far Cry 5, for instance, set in modern times? Or why don't we have an Assassin's Creed set in this time? Or why are why is For Honor not set in this time? I think For Honor in particular might have done pretty well set in a less modern time frame. It's like, I know you get some of that, I guess, with The Witcher 3, but you could make a Witcher 3 in a Conan time frame or environment. I'm surprised there really hasn't been. I guess you could make an argument here that video game writers and idea and concept creators are not that creative, and I think that's probably true. Like, it does definitely feel like they a lot of times just do the same things over and over again when they could be doing more.
You got nothing. Job's done.
Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Night in the Woods developers sets up a worker co-op studio called the Glory Society. So 2 members of the dev team behind Night of the Woods have set up the Glory Society, a worker cooperative game development studio, which I guess means there's no corporation or boss above it. Which I'm not exactly sure how that really boils down legally in different countries. Like that seems like a recipe for disaster when you have the one problem developer come in there and take all the resources. Let's see. That's an interesting concept, definitely. And the logo for the Glory Society here is a hand of glory, which is like a voodoo thing. I don't know if it's voodoo or like some other kind of witchcraft or magic. You cut off a thief's hand and you dip it in wax and turn it into candles, I think is what you do. Like, this might be a medieval Crusades thing that they did. That'd be very interesting if it proved to actually work, that you actually did not need a corporate entity controlling and running a video game company, and it could just be this hippy dippy cooperative. That would be very surprising, very cool. I don't know how you get investors in on that, and I don't know how you make a corporation work without investors otherwise. And see, that's the thing that I think would break it down, is that you could probably make small indie games just fine, but I don't think you could turn that around and use that to your own advantage. Okay. If I do 2 damage here, that'll do 5 here. So if I kind of just do this, and then this, and this, I think I'm kind of fine. Yeah. I'll be interested to see how well that co-op works, or what kind of games it produces. If it's just small indie games, yeah, I could see that. I could see right now, on a global scale, a lot of indie developers could just work with each other, and it really wouldn't mean or do anything different. Right. Beholding, get to Taunt and Divine Shield. Well, let's start with this. We do this, we'll play this, and I guess we didn't win, so we'll play that. And not a single card hit there. TechRaptor has the same article. Trine 4, the Nightmare Prince arrives this fall. Also, there's an Ultimate Edition that's going to include all 4 games. There was a YouTube video talking about a game called The Haunting Ground, which I think is probably a PlayStation game or something. So I've got this video here that I'll have to look at and do more research there. Yeah, it came out in 2005, and I have no idea if it's on PC. There's a lot of games like that. Let's just be honest. A lot of games that only came to PlayStation in particular and never came to PC and probably never will come to PC. But I mean, you can only do so much, and it's not like of my over 1,000 games on Steam, I really haven't covered more than maybe 50 to 100 of them. So let's go ahead and leave this. We don't need to do any more on that. Now we just need to play 30 Hunter class cards. So I'm still very much at the point where I've got plenty of games. There are games on my wish list that I'd like to have, either to support the industry or just to have to play in case I ever find myself in a position where I could retire and just play games for fun. Or things I just like to own. Like I really have crossed over a long time ago, before I even started my YouTube channel, that I've always been the type of person who is okay with owning something and potentially not I'm not actually playing a game or actually watching a movie. I've got lots of movies I've never actually put in a disc, but I'm happy to own it regardless. And I'm not too extreme on that where I'm wasting too much money. If you go with the Mary Kanto idea, does it bring joy to my life? The answer, I guess, would be yes, it does. Do I have enough? Nope. So, and I also do kind of engage in that, although I don't fully subscribe to the Mary Kanto Japanese style of having nothing in your house, minimalism. I'm much more of a collector, but if there is something I have and I just don't care about it, I'll get rid of it. In fact, I got rid of all of my DC comic books just because I realized there was kind of no reason to hold on to them. I wasn't ever going to get around to reading them again. I didn't enjoy reading them the first time. Right. So, moving on, we have a game called Creo God Simulator. This looks like a standard real-time strategy god game. Looks like an asset flip, frankly.
What?
Like, you can't really say these graphics look good anymore. These look like just any kind of graphics you could get from a Unity or Unreal asset store. So it's early access, $14.99, which is extremely expensive. English only. Yeah, there's nothing in that makes me want to play that game. So I'm going to close that tab. I don't know if this is video game related or not, but there was a Smosh Games YouTube channel, and Smosh was one of the YouTube channels that got screwed, it seems, by their parent publishers shutting down and taking all the money. And so Smosh is now owned. They got bought by Good Mythical Mornings company, which I suppose means that if you enjoyed Smosh games, I never watched them, so I don't know. they will continue to have funding and continue to be able to create content and possibly even create better content. This is another example, though, you could argue, of cronyism. Instead of Smosh having to get a bank loan and be evaluated for their actual value, they simply were able to go to their YouTube friends who were also successful and just have them pay to save them. Meanwhile, any small-time YouTuber that's been screwed for any number of reasons isn't going to get that offer, isn't going to get that opportunity. Moving on, we have an article here. Bright Locker's closure affects several hundreds of developers over non-payment. Touted as an amalgamation of Patreon and crowdfunding platforms such as Indiegogo and Kickstarter, Bright Locker Incorporated is out of business. Debt for previous development obligations and project caught up the company with the company. So, I don't know anything about Bright Locker. Let's see. They say they're going to try and pay some people, it seems like. Maybe. Or they're going to try and make a new service that... I mean, why in the world would you ever do business with anybody who worked with Bright Locker in the past? Yeah, it seems like Bright Locker went out of business and they're already working on a replacement company. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely, as a content creator, painted into this weird corner. I promote the Patreon, I like people to support me on Patreon, but then I also get the idea that some people don't want to put their money on Patreon or through anything it's like, so I really don't know what to do. Like, I don't want money to go through YouTube. I don't want money to go through PayPal. I kind of don't want money to go through for Patreon. Like, at a certain point, if I was big enough, I would just get a P.O. box and say, mail me cash. Which is technically illegal to do in the United States, but that would be the easiest solution here, is just to cut out any middleman who has done something ridiculous. But yeah, and Streamlabs has its own issue of sorts that that people are gonna like. I kind of would like to see more Patreon fans before I start to make yet another service that nobody uses. That's a problem. I kind of just like to get more subscribers to run ads, because let's be honest here, real talk, most people don't want to pay directly. They actually, when compared to actually paying even $1 a month, people would much prefer to have ads and then potentially run an ad blocker on top of those ads. And that would make me more money, frankly.
I've got the beast in my sights.
There's another game that somehow is linked to Patreon called The Glass Staircase, which is an homage to a PS2 survival horror game. I'm gonna have to do some more research to see if you can actually play this game without being a Patreon supporter of this person called Puppet Combo. It says Puppet Combo is creating an 80s horror games. and his Patreon has all kinds of stuff on it too. So it's all pretty with pictures and everything. I really should work on mine if I had anything to say.
I wonder.
Problem is I just make video content. That's all I do. So if I start to make something Patreon exclusive, then that's gonna suck. It's gonna suck for a lot of people, and it's counterintuitive to the idea of getting more subscribers. Moving on, as I feel like I'm kind of just rambling at this point. We've got a game on Steam called Magic Mouse, which looks like a top-down rogue-like dungeon game. Doesn't look particularly interesting. Because you're looking top-down, you're not seeing any really good graphics. That's why this thumbnail doesn't really connect. It's free to play, so I guess the price is right, but yeah, I'm not interested. Let's go ahead and hit this and then play this. TechRaptor has an article. Beacon is searching for the right formula. Apparently Beacon is a game, but
cleanse the Sunwell.
It doesn't have a review, so this isn't a review, so whatever. I'll just close that tab. Zenkai Zero Last Beginning has a gameplay trailer. I think I already looked at this. No, I actually don't think I did see this. This game needs to come out so I can get an idea of really what it is. Seems to be like a monster dungeon crawler game. Would this kill me? Yes, it would.
I hunt alone.
Just go ahead and hit that.
Quickly.
It's coming out for PS4 and PC on April 9th, so really just have to wait one more week and then Zenkai Zero will be out and we can know what this game is about, because it's too weird. It's too weird for me to get my head around. The way they're advertising is weird. Maybe this is a good example of like the publisher doing a bad job of explaining clearly what the game is. Alright, so I'm gonna have to play a couple more Hunter games. Gematsu has Sword Art Online, Halo Realization, Deluxe Edition for Switch trailer. We can do a screen peek here and show the characters. So here's the main male character and the main female character of Sword Art Online, the original series. So this isn't like the Galgun series, and I imagine this character is also from the anime. This character may not be. In fact, both of those may not be. I can't help but feel like they're a couple years too late though, pushing out these games. I think the next big multimedia attempt by a Japanese company to have manga and anime and games and everything come out at the same time, I think they're going to have to work really hard to get the video games out earlier. Which very well may mean that they're going to have to develop in secret a couple of video games for 3 to 4 years before the manga or anime even comes out. Which is very possibly something they're not willing to do. Next we have a game on Steam called Thug's Law, which is just kind of a low polygon low effort game, shooting the same model over and over again. Simplistic menu AI. It's early access, $1.49. 3 Steam achievements. I didn't know you could have only 3. I guess you can. Well, there is a game. The Witness has only 2, so it probably can have as little as 1. But it's kind of surprising more people don't just go, there's 1 achievement, you get it when you start the game. That's all you have to do. Thug's Law, of course, not making it to the follow list. Hey, I see the beginning of the end here, too. So we may have to stretch for time. Just because there aren't that many games that were left over from last week. But that's a good indicator also, because that means we aren't getting into a position where every single week I'm gonna fall behind, because that certainly didn't feel good to fall behind and have things left over and then try on Fridays to stretch it out and make it a longer experience. If anything, I want Mondays and Wednesdays to be the longer experience. Next we have a game on Steam called Dark Sauce, which I suppose is a reference to Dark Souls. This looks like a low polygon platformer, kind of Roblox looking. It's $1.79 discounted. Bunch of languages. Yeah, I don't see anything there interesting.
Job's done.
Return. Next we have a game on Steam called Overture Music Visualization, which looks like it is straight up just a music visualizer, although it looks kind of like you're in a spaceship for some reason in a lot of these screenshots. Doesn't look particularly good or interesting. It's $9.99. It doesn't seem like it supports VR, but there is a VR demo, so they must have 2 different versions of this game. Which I don't really think this actually is a game at all. It's more software. Alright, let's see. Okay, 5 here. And that's there. And that there. And that's there. Yeah, this is the game we already saw TechRaptor talk about and say was very good, called When the Darkness Comes. I would easily skip over this game, frankly. Like, it does not look like it's anything. But it's free, so I'll put it on the follow list because it's rated very positively. It is very, very possible that there have been 50 to 100 games like this that I've overlooked on Steam. Does it really matter? Not really. Because if it gained enough relevancy that people were talking about it, somebody would mention it at some point. And I've really never had anybody come back and say, hey, this game that I know you don't have on your wish list, or you've marked as not interested in some way, or indicated that you aren't interested in. Nobody's ever come back and said, actually, that game is good, you should play it. It's always, well, that's never the story. I'm just gonna end the churn here. And there's just so many games that come out in general that even if there is a hidden gem, it's possible nobody will play it, and then it kind of doesn't matter. In the same way that there's almost certainly hundreds of songs that come out in a year that are really good that nobody hears, because there's no no push to play it on the radio, or hundreds of good books that are written that nobody reads, or effectively nobody reads.
To my side.
So, do that, and do that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Cave Racer, which looks just like a flying around, kind of Flappy Bird style game. Flying to side, avoiding spikes. Nothing interesting there. 99 cents for an English only game. If I can survive 7 more turns, I could win that way. Next, we have a game on Steam called Keystones, which seems like it's a color matching puzzle game. I don't like the pause screen here, or whatever, and the number here, and the grayness of all of this. I think this is a really drab color palette to put in your game. This would look a lot better if you were just going with a standard one-screen Unity puzzle game with a white background. Like, you've differentiated your game, sure, but you've made it look uglier. 99 cents, no discount, and that's an English and Portuguese Brazilian game. Yeah. I don't think that this game is complicated enough. I'll be generous here though. I'll put this on the follow list. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna put it on the follow list. I'm gonna stand my ground on this one and say nope. No to this game. It's not polished enough. I've got too many puzzle games already that I've put on the follow list that I'll probably never play. Next, we have a game on Steam called Smartphone Tycoon, which is a bunch of videos here to hide the fact that it's a hideous, ugly game. It's mixed reviews. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game designed by a smartphone developer to have people design different smartphone screen sizes and styles. But honestly, if you were designing a smartphone, you would not be doing it via game, because anything new that you wanted to add would just not exist, and it wouldn't make any sense. Should I play these? I don't know. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam, Sudoku 3D2, The Cube. This looks like a cell phone game port. And it's still lacking some polish. I might be willing to play a 3D Cube Sudoku game, if that made any sense to me, but it kind of doesn't. And this giant power button, it doesn't make, and these levers and gears, this looks like a terrible mobile port. It's $1.39 discounted, English and Russian. Right, there we go. I need to make sure, yeah, I should have actually played this last turn to play the card. Oops.
Forged in blood and shadow.
Let's go ahead and show the loss. Yeah, so far I'm not feeling an easier way to win. Use the hero power 30 times. I might get that done on accident. Yeah, we've got the fuzzy graphics. I kind of wish they would fix that. That's happening more and more. Next we have a game on Steam called Intruder. It's rated very positively. It feels like it's possibly a cheaper version of Rainbow Six Siege.
You asked for it.
Let the hunt begin.
Visually, it does look cheaper, but maybe it plays better. This is a game that's going to be multiplayer only though, so it's not in my wheelhouse. I don't play multiplayer only games. This is a lockpicking mini game in the middle of it. Actually, that's probably a good idea to put into Rainbow Six Siege. But yeah, seems like maybe this is enough of a slight improvement on some ideas from Rainbow Six Siege to be a clone of it, and maybe that's why people seem to be enjoying it somewhat. But since it's just a multiplayer game for me, it's not going on the wish list. Next we have a game on Steam called Call of the Mighty Warriors. It's mostly negative already, which means I can reject it. Looks like it's an MS Paint game where either the characters are these tiny little dots on screen or there are no characters on screen. It's 59 cents. Part of a bundle for 7 other items for $4.41. It's probably an achievement game, if I was to guess. But people don't even like it for that. Just gonna go and end the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Firen, which looks like an RPG maker with terrible animation. I really can't call this anything other than MS Paint level of just bad ability to draw. Like, I can't call that an artistic style. I really can't. $3.59 with the 10% discount. Really expensive too. Yeah. That's not making it to the wish list, of course.
We have many secrets.
Next we have a troll game on Steam called The Savior's Gang, which seems to be a bunch of people walking on the water and getting shot up on water here. Seems like that's what it is. It's just running from place to place and having things fall on top of you, or water spouts shoot you upwards. It seems like it's a chase game. They want $3.99 with the discount, and this is English and Spanish Spain, 38 achievements. Yeah, I don't know how you don't call this a troll game more than a comedy game. I suppose if it was really, really good, you could call it a comedy game, but honestly, I think this falls closer to a troll than a comedy game, because there's not a real experience here or story in the first part. There is kind of a unfair bias, I would say, to the difference between a troll game and a comedy game. Like, you kind of have to be established and respected first as a developer before you can make a comedy game. Otherwise, it does feel like it's a troll game. This developer made a game called Hive Altinium Wars before, that's got like 10 reviews and is mostly positive. This Savior's Gang is 15 reviews and positive. And I would almost say this game feels like it has enough work put into it to be closer to a comedy game. But I think you're going a dangerous route by going religious and then being funny in religion. You're doing something like a Monty Python's Life of Brian style game, and if there was a Life of Brian style game that came out and I didn't know and nobody had ever heard of Monty Python, if they were just a brand new comedy troupe, I think you would call them trolls too at this point, because we're sadly in slightly different style worlds than they used to be.
Job's done.
And there was that Cyanide and Happiness game where the apocalypse happened and all the good people got left behind and became evil, and I think that was a bit of a troll game too. So even professionals can make troll games. I guess I'm expanding my definition of what a troll game is. No, you know what? I probably should just call it a comedy game. I'm going in circles here mentally, but it's a thought that definitely I think needed to happen. Because, yeah, everybody's a little flippant about what makes a troll game, or what is a troll game. So it is helpful to reassess and recenter your perspective.
The jungle provides.
Yeah, and I'm watching this entire trailers, and this Saviors game actually does feel like there's enough polish here to be labeled a comedy game. Still not putting it on the wish list or anything, but I don't think it is in the same basket as other games that are much worse. Better to err on the side of caution, I suppose. Next we have a game on Steam called Rollus, R-O-L-L-O-S-U-S, which feels like it's some kind of giant ball rolling game, like kind of like a pinball game or something. Yeah, this feels like it's probably a half-finished product. Like, looking at each of these screenshots, they all seem to be in the same area. It's a little too dark. This is $2.99 discounted. English only, 7 achievements. Yeah, this feels like it's missing some polish. Definitely missing some polish. Oh, okay. So when Jack Black decided to start his YouTube channel and play video games and become a YouTube streamer, which he really has not done, frankly. Let's see. The one thing I thought, if I didn't say it out loud, was that this was it was only going to be a countdown until he played the game that he's in, Brutal Legend. Now, that being said, I suppose this YouTube video isn't just him playing Brutal Legend, because it starts off with this other character that looks like he's disabled and his legs don't work. Maybe he was challenging this character named Ricky Berwick. I don't know who that is. Was like challenging him to play Brutal Legend, but as I skipped a fret ahead, he is playing it. So this is March 1st that he did this. let's go to his YouTube channel, which was established December 21st, 2018. So January, February, March. He lasted 3 months before he was just self-promoting a game he's been in. Which, by the way, Jack Black has been getting movie work, so I mean, it's not surprising that he didn't voice act in any other games recently, but if he does want to be a video game voice actor, that would have been, he's not really doing a great job of causing that to happen. Also, I'd like to point out that he is kind of the worst YouTuber ever. Like, his announcement video is 29 seconds and it got 10 million views. Then he has a thanks for 1 million subscribers video that's 50 seconds. And then he plays pinball for about 3 minutes 2 months ago. And then he has a 2-minute round 1 video game review. I think he was probably trying to build a YouTube streaming channel for his son, or I don't know, maybe he had an agent that told him to do this, or maybe he's just crazy in general, because like he's not really putting any time in it. His next video is 7 minutes, or slightly less than 7 minutes. His next video is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And these are minutes I'm looking at, not hours. I'm fairly certain. His next video is We're Finally Gaming for 5 minutes and 52 seconds. Next is a 13-minute and 39 video that I don't believe is about gaming. Then a about 10-minute video that I don't think is actually about gaming. Next is an 18-minute video titled Jumanji 4. So I think he's played maybe 2 video games in 3 months for these, and not in any consistent way. And this really isn't a case of him streaming somewhere else and the YouTube channel is just rudimentary. He has 3.9 million subscribers right now, and he's made nothing. Basically. Absolutely nothing. For 3 months. Which is not odd for for somebody who's not really a YouTuber. I guess. Is there another one we would use the hero power a lot? Not really. Let's just keep playing. So, but why? Oh, and his first video said there would be a video every Friday, and I doubt he's consistently stuck with that.
Versus Jaina.
You asked for it.
Let the hunt begin.
So, I just want to... I'm basically just pointing out that I was right. Yeah, first thing he was... Like, I'm surprised the first game he didn't play was Brutal Legend. There's nothing wrong with Brutal Legend other than the things wrong with Brutal Legend. If they got rid of all the boss stage fights and just made it an action game, or put in an option to play it as an action game, it would be a much better experience. If they announced a Brutal Legend 2, that would be cool. But then you're gonna either have to have Jack Black come back and voice act, and then you'd have to work around his schedule, or you replace the character, which might be a good idea, is just to move a generation ahead of, or hundreds of years ahead in the future of the timeline. But Double Fine, meanwhile, is dealing with Starbreeze going out of business potentially, and them Starbreeze supposed to be the publishing of their game that I always forget the name of, Psychonauts 2. Yeah. So they've got to deal with Psychonauts 2 before they could even start to think about a new Brutal Legend. The progressive pro-censorship leaning forum Reset Era has a new image option feature where you can enable or disable whether you want to see images posted on their forums. Let's see. You can click off showing avatars in a thread, showing avatars in the list, showing images, showing covers, and showing medias. And it seems like it's very much designed around being helpful to people with low internet bandwidth connections, because there's a cellular connection and an other connection option as an experimental feature. Now, inherently, this is really just to let a user change their own experience. It does not in any way stop a mod from removing a photo or a post that they disagree with on the forum. So take that as it is. I personally don't think there's any newsworthy information to come from Reset Era because it's often false and heavily biased. But unfortunately, Gamasutra uses it as if it's good, as if it's a credible news source when they really shouldn't. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article for a game called Lyrica for the Switch that launches March 28. This looks like it is a rhythm game of some sort with Asian characters integrated into it. Let's see, an art-developed rhythm game. It's currently available on the App Store and Google Play Store also. So it's coming to the Switch. Switch gets a lot of games this way. It's kind of a genius move. Is bring in the mobile games and bring in the indie PC games. Right. So at this point, I'm at games that were left over from Friday, and there really aren't too much, so we're not going to have a second recording, I don't think, today. I may just play off screen to get any daily quests done, because if I don't have anything to talk about, I should just rest my voice. So we've got a game on Steam called Toe Jam and Earl, back in the groove. This is not a remaster, but a continuation of Toe Jam and Earl as a series. It's rated very positively. I've heard some negativity around it, like it's not relevant anymore. It's just such a weird old game that, like, I'm not sure there was more than a niche following of the Toe Jam and Earl series in the first place. I think with the high reviews, I'm willing to try this out, so I'll put it on the fall list. It is possible that I would buy one of the Toe Jam and Earl games on Steam, try it out, and go, oh, this game is not something that really interests me. It does kind of feel like you just kind of walk around looking for spaceships in what is a multi-level sort of roguelike experience. Let's see. Hey, give me a +1/+1, and I'll do that. There we go. But yeah, at the moment, it deserves to be on the follow list. Next, we have a game on Steam called Optimum Link, which seems like it says it's a dream simulator. And it's got 72% positive with 20 reviews. I'm not impressed by this though. This feels like just a bunch of asset flips mixed together. Yeah. So you have to give me a little bit more like structure than this. It's free to play. I guess that solves part of the problem too. English only is the language. Yeah, if you're not paying anything for it, I could see being a little bit more generous on the price. And turn. Let's see. Trying to see if this one is actually let's go ahead and let's squelch this. So next we have a game called Mola Mola Vivian. This is an sort of anime girl slide square puzzle where you have the anime pictures and slide the blocks around. It's tag nudity and sexual content for 59 cents. Don't buy these games. I would say though this art style at least is going for not a modern anime style per se. It's not going for the moe look. It's more just slightly influenced by that style, but not by much. Like, and now we're going to take a sharp swing in the other direction. Next we have the Lego Movie video game 2. Lego Movie 2 video game. I'm trying to see if I can get a new video card before I play any more Lego games. But that's not really stopping me from buying the Lego video games, so this will go on my wish list. This game goes in a different direction, more like the Lego The Hobbit games. It's $29.99. Also, I'm not seeing any deluxe edition or DLC, which is kind of surprising. So, instead of switching characters for different abilities, you're collecting different colored bricks to build things, and you play as a custom character. So they're trying something different. Which, you know, the Lego games do need these kind of shake-ups every now and then, just so you can try something. And they kind of are coming off of the Lego Dimensions, where you could switch between all kinds of characters, and that went in a very different direction. And I would say the Lego Dimensions series really ate into a lot of ideas and effort compared to the Lego Movie, which clearly Lego Dimensions and the Lego Movie should have been in the same universe. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna win, but I am just supposed to be using my hero power. Next we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters. It looks like it's probably a Chinese visual novel because there's no people being shown, just text. English is not supported. They want $9.39 and 34 cents, and it is just traditional Chinese, so I was right about that guess. We have about 12 more games to go. I'm about to lose. Next we have a game on Steam called Townsman: A Kingdom Rebuilt. The Townsman series has already existed, and I don't think I really want to play any of them. It's a city builder simulation type game. It's mostly positive already. $15.99 discounted though. That is way too expensive. And if you're gonna ask that kind of price, I think I can reject a game that's not really the style of game I want to play anyways. So yeah, that's not. I'm just gonna go ahead and skip it. I don't know why he didn't take the win. 7 more cards, 7 more opportunities for me to use my hero power, which I don't really need to do. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Mordorica Real Estate. Mordorica Real Estate. Says it's an adventure indie puzzle game, but seems like it has a bit of a horror element to it also. Some weirdness definitely with this. Yeah, I don't know what in the world this game is. They want $14.44 on it, and it's English, Chinese, and Japanese, so I want to give this one a try. Not put it on the wish list or anything, but I want to put it on the follow list and see if this is like a DS game that's been ported to PC. They're escape the room games using pen and paper, search for the hints, and jot down notes on the maps. So maybe this is a game that really wouldn't be too playable on PC in the first place. But I want to put this on the follow list just to give it a chance. Like, I might be getting a little mentally exhausted and giving things chances that don't deserve it, but whatever. And this guy is just not playing. It's just screwing around for some reason. But whatever. Next we have a game on Steam called War of Power: The Last Fight, which looks like it's just a top-down real-time strategy that doesn't look particularly interesting. It's a little nicely polished, but the menu's not very detailed over here. So I bet there's not too much to do. This trailer seems to make no sense, and this thumbnail really doesn't make any sense either. It's early access for $6.79, and it's English and Russian, which wears away at my confidence a lot. But even before I saw that, I was going to reject this game, so rejected it is. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. Toho Luna Nights leaves Steam Early Access, version 1.0 now available. 4th and 5th stages are completed. So looks like this is a platformer, maybe with a little bit of Castlevania. Yeah, it says it's a Metroidvania game on it. Looks a little like it might be a little difficult also, but I'm not sure. So this one's caught my eye enough to put it on the follow list. So yeah, that's what I'll do. Well, why did I just close the tab then? If I was going to do that. That was dumb of me. And go get back to where I was. This guy's just hurting himself. He's trying to play probably Mecha Thing, if I was to guess.
I hunt alone.
I'm gonna screw him up. I'm gonna play till I'm out of games to talk about, and then I'm gonna concede. either that's the case or either he's trying to play Mechathune or he's trying to do something else. Next we have a game called Time Transit VR, which looks interesting, but unfortunately is VR, unless I can play it without VR. No, says VR. So unless this developer has another game called Time Transit, I would say check this out. Put it on your own personal follow list if you're interested in a VR adventure game. This looks like this is actually something that might be cool. In fact, I might just put it on the follow list regardless. It's $34.99, so it's asking a lot, but if you already have spent the money on a VR headset, it probably is worth it. Alright. So that in the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Dawn of the Lost Castle. I'm not sure I love this art style, but it is an art style and not just a lack of ability, it feels like. It says it's an RPG, but to me it looks like a platformer. Looks like it's going for kind of a mosaic glass look. This is early access for $4.89 discounted. It's English and Chinese as the languages. But this looks like it might have something. It might be just a simplistic platformer with no actual enemies in it, but that might be okay too. I don't know. This, in some parts, it looks like it might be a student project. I'll put this on the follow list and I'll see further. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this. How many more cards does he have left? I really want to screw this guy over for stretching this out this much. Next we have a game called Grove Flowers, which looks like an Arkanoid clone, and I have no interest in playing an Arkanoid clone or anything that looks like it. Even if it is an Arkanoid clone, it doesn't look interesting. It's $4.99. So yeah, that's not making it to the list. We have about 5 more games. Next we have a game on Steam called Super Arcade Soccer. And this is not from a name brand soccer game developer. It looks alright, but not quite as polished as some of the other soccer games I've seen made. So I don't think I need to put this on the wish list. If I'm going to play one soccer game, I've already got something on the follow list or the wish list that's better than this. This is 10% off for $4.49. It's not terrible, just not good enough. Alright, so we do this, and let's just concede.
Well fought. I concede.
So, whatever he thought he was going to get away with, I'm not going to let it happen. Alright. So, that's 2 things done on the European account, and we haven't even touched the Asian account. And we're about to wrap up. So let's just see what the Asian account is. Best case scenario, there's a watch and learn, and that's it. That would be the best case scenario, and that's almost certainly not. Meanwhile, over here on Steam, we have a game called X Point that says it's a simulation game of some sort. Looks like it's a military tank simulation. And like none of these videos are even loading. It's early access, $7.99, English and Russian. I can already tell this is not a game that's going to interest me in any way. Is this some kind of Russian troll thing where they're now making military games that are, I guess, maybe to indicate that the Russian army is very powerful? Maybe that's the idea. Maybe these are straight up propaganda games. I don't know. I kind of question that too. Alright, so we have Warlock cards, watch and learn. There's nobody online right now, so I'm gonna have to do that anyways. We can play Zoo Warlock for one game, and then I think we're gonna be done for the stream. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called VCuber that has some anime characters, but it's just an Arkanoid clone. Like you're both dodging and bouncing a ball while playing Arkanoid. So slightly more varied and different than most Arkanoid clones, because you've made a bullet hell dodging mechanism into it. But this does not look like it's a real whole game. This looks like it's a bunch of stolen art assets. Early access for $3.99, English, Japanese, and Chinese. Yeah, looks like a very low effort game. I guess that's why I started using the phrase low effort. I need to get back to using that more often instead of troll games, because that's a lot easier to figure out. Next we have a game on Steam called Acid Flip, where you're running around probably some third-party assets shooting a squirt gun with acid in it, which is probably something you shouldn't want to encourage people to do. Honestly, if anybody even tried, they'd probably just melt through their plastic squirt gun and burn their hand. I don't see anything here interesting. This is $4.99 with no discount, and it's in early access. Alright, let's play just the Warlock cards. That's what we're trying to play. Next we have a game on Steam called A Feeble Saga, which looks like it's a RPG game of some sort. There's some polish here, but I don't like these top-down games too much, particularly when you have to consider it compared to something like Diablo, or like, yeah, Diablo would be a good example of this. Early access, $4.99. The question I suppose to ask is, did this developer make anything else? Because if your first game is an RPG, I think it's entirely skippable. This developer hasn't made anything else, and the publisher hasn't made anything else. So even if A Feeble Saga is great, which it probably isn't, and it isn't just a low effort asset flip, which it probably is, it's not really worth most people's time. And even now, playing something like Fallout 1 would not make sense until Fallout 2 and Fallout 3 comes out, and then there's that retroactive relevancy of a game being successful enough to have a series. So I'm basically saying you have to be successful to get successful in the video game industry, and that's kind of true. Or you have to be really good in your first release and not just mediocre. Next we have a game on Steam called Jambo's Adventure, which looks like a platformer from the mid-90s or early 90s. I'm seeing a lot of redundant tile sets and not very much detail here, so It's nothing that interests me. This is 99 cents and it's from a low effort developer who has 63 games now available for $49.27. English and Russian are the languages, in case that interests you too.
How long can this go on? How long can this go on?
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, World Tree Marche for Switch launches February 28th in the West. I've not heard anything about this game. It says it's a warm-hearted management simulation game. So I guess I could watch this trailer and see what it's about. I imagine you're managing a restaurant or something. Yeah. It looks kind of like a DS game that is just being ported to the Switch. Yeah, you're managing a restaurant, it seems.
I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know how relevant a lot of this information often is. Like, just, it's news. I don't know if it's irrelevant news, but it's news. And I think I already talked about this game, but Little Mouse's Encyclopedia looks like it's a family-friendly game where you learn a lot about animals and plants and such. So I'm always on the lookout for family-friendly games. It's $4.99 and supposedly sports a bunch of languages. So yeah. Gain 2 attack. And then do this. Draw some cards. And then do that.
Your soul is mine.
And in the turn. And then TechRaptor has an article here. 2084 is an interesting remix of an established game. So you would think 2084 would be like a numbers game, but it's a first-person shooter. Let's see. 2084's campaign took less than an hour to finish. Let's see. So, I'm willing to put 2084 based on this slight article, not really a review. They didn't give it a review number. I wish TechRaptor would stick to just giving things review numbers. But, yeah. I'm willing to check that out on Steam, which if we come over and show it on Steam, it looks like a big weirdo game that I very possibly skipped over, but it is getting reviewed positively. Yeah, I kind of remember this game. Early access, $9.99, English only. Yeah, fast-paced first-person shooter with a hacking mechanics. So yeah, I'll put that on the fall list, and if it ever comes out of early access.
Mushroom power! Free me!
And then let's see what this other one is. I have an article here from Gamatsu. We already talked about that one though. So that puts me at the Humble Bundle. And let's see if there are any Humble Bundles that are new. Otherwise, we can just wrap up the stream and I'm just gonna have to play some Hearthstone off stream. Let's see. There's the Humble Monthly. To subscribe to that, there's like 2 things that are expiring in the next couple days. Yeah, but there's nothing right now that's new. So then that just puts me back at the top of Twitter. And let's just see if there's any new news that happened.
I wonder.
Twitter-wise. Keep on drawing cards.
Mushroom punch!
Let's see. It's a game called Community Cup that WB Games just released. I think it's Golf Clash. Oh, so it's a new Clash game. TechRaptor has an article here. This is one I forgot to talk about. Anthem PS4 issue continues. Reports of consoles being bricked. Apparently Anthem is running so poorly that it is causing like hard reboots and problems like that that should not be capable. No game on a console should be capable of doing that, and yet somehow this is happening. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that one then. And let's do this. And then do this. And attack here. There we go.
Job's done.
Let's see. Twitch tweeted out 42 minutes ago, we're working to resolve an issue with your highlights being stuck in processing. Thanks for the reports. We'll keep you updated. I had a video that was stuck in processing for months on Twitch and I finally just deleted it. The automatic conversion of my videos from YouTube to Twitch stopped working. That website couldn't continue doing what it was doing, so yeah, it kind of ended there. But I got a lot of my videos on Twitch, and I've gotten some new followers like on Twitch too, but not anything that would make me think for a second that I should start streaming on Twitch and trying to get followers there and trying to make money on that service. Let's see. Sony apparently is issuing some refunds on PS4s for Anthems. Let's see. YouTube and Susan Wojcicki are still trying very hard to promote females and intersectionality in general, instead of maybe focusing on the bigger issues and triaging a little bit. And I'm already back to where I was on Twitter, so there very possibly are some more Twitter things for me to find, but I don't think so. So off screen I'm gonna have to play some Warlock cards and do a watch and learn, but we're done with news and we've done 2 recordings at an hour and a half. Could have done 3 recordings at an hour certainly, but there's no reason to do that. Like, I've got plenty of recordings, and it seems like my chat needs some adjustment still, but otherwise we're good. So that's going to be it for this recording and this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Also, give me a thumbs up. Maybe that will help my videos get more viewership. Particularly thumbs up all the videos that come on my channel that aren't Hearthstone live streams, if you would be so kind, because I'd like those videos to get more views. If you want to support me even further than that, there's a bunch of places down to friend and follow me. One of the links is to Patreon. You can support me through Patreon, which would be very much appreciated. Or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list, which also is very helpful. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.